come to the Vintage Computer Festival at the Enter Museum to see the evolution of From the Hole to the Cloud.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. This time we will speak in English, and that should be okay for most people, I hope. So we had quite a few conferences yesterday from professors, from engineers who were living the technology revolution until 2000 in Switzerland. This time, what I find interesting, this speech is about people studying the history. For me, who lived this, history sounds, like in the past, but it's today now. It's studied by a specialist. And what we will talk about today is specifically a project I heard is called Confederatio Ludens, where 4 universities are studying and archiving the video games developed in Switzerland. Please welcome Professor Yanick Rochat and PhD student Sophie Bémelmans from University of Lausanne.
Hello, everybody. We are very happy to be here. Evacuation from Japan and Michel. So we'll be talking about games and something. Oh, it's working better. And something which is interesting with all this project. Okay. Something interesting with this project is that, yes, we are writing the history of, in fact, video games, but we cannot write the history of video games in Switzerland in the 20th century without getting interested in the history of computing. Is it fine with the sound? Yeah? Okay, so I'm professor at the Faculty of Arts at the University of Lausanne, as is Sophie, and we are part of this Confederatio Ludens project, which is supported by the National Swiss Foundation, the Swiss National Foundation for Research. And there are 4 universities, Bern, the University of Arts in Bern, in Zurich, the University of Bern, and the University of Lausanne, which are collaborating on this project. There is some kind of feedback.
Yeah, it's not. Yeah, it's a bit loud, I think. Thank you.
And part of this project, so I'm interested in the history of video games in general, but part of this project is the PhD thesis of Sophie. You hear it? I should keep talking so that they can maybe correct this. Yeah, Sophie will talk about what she's been doing for doctoral research, and in particular, the games that were produced on the Smaky, which are among the oldest video games known in Switzerland. And usually people don't know that we have video games in Switzerland that were created in the 20th century. And in the context of our project, we are discovering hundreds of them. So in fact, Switzerland was a place where video games were created, a lot of them, and many of them on the Smaky computers. So maybe we won't present the Smaky computers because you know about them, and there were great talks about them yesterday. So the content of our presentation, we will talk about the relation between computer science and games. They've been present for a very long time. They were used to practice programming, but also to demonstrate how the computers work. And these games have been created in Switzerland for a very long time, and we will see a few of the educational games that were created on the Smaky. Many of them were created by Daniel Roux. So how do we demonstrate what a computer can do, and how do we practice with a computer? So our first example will be this one. If you have a look at the writings of Ada Lovelace and Charles Babbage in the 19th century, so we are really at the beginning of the history of computing, they used many examples from games. Here you have an algorithm to implement the tic-tac-toe with the differential engine, but they were also very interested in chess, and in particular on the knight's problem. So the knight's problem is how to how to use the knight and go on every part of a chessboard. Ada Lovelace in particular was interested in the solitaire, how to implement it, and Leibniz had already been studying it and wondering how we could automatize and solve the solitaire in an algorithmic way. And they were also interested in the place for chance and randomness in their machines using the example of dice. So the history of games or video games starts at the same time as this history of computing. And in the 20th century, when we wanted to show these electronic machines, we were often using games, in particular, either the tic-tac-toe, the chess, or here the Nim game or Marienbad game. So we have here a few examples, and we will see a Swiss example just after. So the Nimatron, which was exhibited in New York just before the Second World War, the Nimrod in the UK, the Marienbad in Poland in 1962. So the Nim game is a mathematical game. It's mathematically solved. So you can present it to the crowd, letting them think that the computer is thinking. In fact, usually either it's a draw or no, not a draw in the case of the Nim, but the computer will always win against you, except if you know the algorithm. So there is this sensation that the computer is intelligent, is clever, and it's a great way to demonstrate how you can interact with such a machine. There were also chess programs that were studied here in the case of Claude Shannon at the MIT, where he made an example of his machine with a chess grand champion, and in the case of Alan Turing, who also implemented an algorithm to play chess. This is at the start of the 1950s. And maybe you've heard of some of these coming examples. They are often used in the history of video games. So there is Tennis for Two from 1958, which is played on an oscilloscope. And something particular with this game is that it was created, programmed, when there were open visits at the university. And they wanted to show what you could do with such a machine. So the game not implemented to play it, but demonstrate what you can do. Another famous example is Space War from 1960, programmed at the MIT, and then it spread over the US. Everybody was taking the code and adding some features to it, and it became a great example of what computers could do, but it was a video game. It already had a lot of game design elements that were useful later for other games. So, what happened in Switzerland?
It's my turn now. I think it's okay on mic. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, I will switch now. Okay. So in my part, I will mostly talk about Swiss games, and I will show you two ways of thinking these games. We have the games that we thought about it like we learn by doing these. So we will see a few examples of these, like the list here, and then we will talk about more like the games that were educational. So we learn by playing these. So the first examples are before we had this computer, we had electronical practice and also club and also magazine. And in those magazines, we could see some electronic games that we could tinker by ourselves. And it's a great example to see that games can be a way to learn a practice here, doing some electronics. And in those magazines, we could see example of ping-pong-like games, like the one we see with Yanick. And it was, a great way of learning how to use a TV to play games, but to create them. And one of the great example that we have about electronic Swiss game is the closer. Okay. It's a bit loud for me, I guess.
Much better. But do it for business.
Yeah, can we? Yeah, thank you. I can hear myself out with that loudness. Okay, so the great example that we have in Switzerland is the Nimmer that was made by René Sommer. So I guess that yesterday a lot of people talked already about him, but for the one that they were not there yesterday, it's one of the important person behind the mouse of Logitech. So that guy began with some electronical practice in clubs, like I said before, and the first thing he made, and he won an award for that, is the Nimmer. It's in the same idea of what we saw earlier with the game of Nim, and we will show you. So. Yeah, a video of them. When he won the prize, TV came to see him, and we have the luck to have a trace.
René Sommer est l'un des concurrents de la
Sorry,
science s'appelle les jeunes 1969. Et il a présenté un travail qui ne concerne ni les oiseaux, ni une espèce rare de plante. C'est quelque chose bien de notre époque. C'est un robot, au fond, que vous avez fabriqué.
Oui, un peu. Dans un certain genre, c'est en fait une calculatrice spécialisée pour un jeu.
Ah, donc elle ne résout pas les additions ou des soustractions, mais cette calculatrice-là est un partenaire pour jouer à un certain jeu.
C'est exactement ça. Elle fait des additions, des comparaisons, mais on n'en voit pas les résultats, on voit seulement le jeu qui se modifie.
Oh. Spoiler alert. So here we can see that he was thinking of the game about. It was not like we want to play it. It's an exercise for him. How can I use what I know about electronic to create something? And it's really complex for that time. That's why he won the award. And other things were made. Like for the clubs, there was that computer that was made by Jean Daniel and his team. Is the Dauphin. It was something that we could tinker ourselves because it was a computer in kit. And the Dauphin was a Swiss computer for the ones that don't know him. You can see it in the exhibition here, so it's really nice to discover it. And Daniel Roux is one of the most known creator of games on Smaky computers. And the first thing he made when he created these computers, one of the first things he made is to create the games, actually. And here you can see the listing of the assembly program he made, and it's something about, it's more ludic than a real game, but you have to test your reflex. So we will have a video of that made by Laurent Bernard, that is the one that created the exhibition here. You can ask him to show you if you want. No, he will not do that. So here you can see that you have an input that show you you have to press, and you have to press fast. It's test your reflex. And you have the number of seconds that you took to push the button. So it seems pretty simplistic, but at that time it was really not the case, because you can see that it was not many buttons, and you only have switch to program. So it was an exercise really hard at that time. And when Laurent had to recreate that thing on his Dauphin, he said that it was so hard for him that he had to take a video of it, because he will not do that ever again. So we can see that games here are also the way of learning to program, and for that case, it's really the hard way. Okay. So now let's talk about Smaky. I will not talk much about it because you already know them, and if the same thing, if you want to see them in real life, they are in the exhibition, and the creator just disappeared, but he was there a few seconds ago. But yeah. But on this computer, we had games since 1976 Oh, you changed it. Thank you. We find some trace of it. In here, I will show you one of example that we found on TV. Yeah, thank you. On TV, and we can see Jean-Daniel Nicou playing with one of his assistants, Ronald Forster. And yeah, sorry, it's in French too. Like a snake type
Dans
of
ce
game.
laboratoire de l'École polytechnique fédérale de Lausanne, le professeur Nicou et l'un de ses assistants s'amusent avec un jeu électronique.
Ah, dommage. J'ai fait la faute.
C'est pas un peu futile de jouer à des jeux électroniques dans un laboratoire universitaire?
Certainement pas, dans la mesure où on apprend beaucoup de choses en faisant ces jeux. Et ce programme a été fait par M. Forster, qui est étudiant à l'École polytechnique. Il se présente maintenant sous une forme de petit trou dans une bonne papier. Et pour arriver à placer toute l'information nécessaire pour qu'un ordinateur puisse perforer cette bande papier, eh bien, il faut un certain travail dans lequel les étudiants peuvent apprendre énormément de choses et se préparer pour leur profession future.
Donc le but, c'est pas de jouer, c'est d'apprendre à programmer.
Le but, c'est d'apprendre à programmer. Et effectivement, les jeux offrent à la fois une motivation pour faire des programmes difficiles et présentent à la fois un certain nombre de problèmes véritablement difficiles à résoudre.
Yeah. So here in English, what he said, because it's important, is what we wanted to highlight in this presentation, that we make games to learn to program, because it's something that imply a lot of dimensions to do. So for Jean-Daniel, it was a real useful exercise in his laboratory. It was not about playing and having fun, because it's something that we can agree on, but here it was mostly about learning. And yeah, I will not read all that, but for the ones that don't speak French, you have what he said there. Okay. So now let's move on to educational games on Smaky. So that's not about the games that are made to learn programming and stuff like that. Here it's about the games that have knowledge on it. And it was something really important in Smaky history, because you have to know that Smaky were mostly sold in school. So the educational part of it was really important for them. So the games that we can find on them were mostly have that educational part on it. And there was also a computer that had, at that time, people didn't have any computer, actually, so they have to learn how to use it, and especially when the mouse came in. And the first video I will show you is a software that was made to learn to use the mouse on Smaky. So, yeah, so that's the thing. Je crois que tu devrais mettre la vidéo sur le... Oh. I was killing it. Okay, stop that. So what I forgot to say before showing you that is that Smaky, when it ended, we had an emulator that was made, Smaky Infini. So it's something that you can still download today. So there is the link here if you want to discover. And you have all the Smaky computers after the Smaky 6 one. And on it, you have multiple software that were made at all the length life of Smaky, and that's where I found this Bonjour software where you can try to learn to use the mouse. So it was me playing it, and I was killing it. And the thing I wanted to say about this game, this software, is that we can see that there is something ludic about it because, you know, it's there is reward. We have congratulations with Blupi and so on. But also we can, you don't see that in the video, but the maze change every time. So even in a software just about learning to use the mouse, we have some game design. So it's interesting for us, just that example. But we have many, many games on Smaky Infini, but they were mostly about educational stuff too. We can find some quiz, also board games, obviously, because it was something that we do a lot at that time too. We have some adventure and stuff like that. And I will show you one, not that one. Yeah, you have to. We had to choose another way to do that. So it's a quiz that was made by one of the teacher, because as I said, Smaky was sold mostly in schools, so teachers really enjoyed to use this computer, and they had to learn how to use them, but also to they create some software too. And here we have an example of a software that was made by one of these teachers, and it's just about a quiz to learn stuff. Here I choose the category of general culture. And we can see that I made a poor choice. I didn't have the answer. But then I made it, I think. Yay! So here we can see we have also the little guy that congratulates us. And it's one of these examples of how we use games to educate. And yeah, it's not fluid at all. Yeah. Okay. So now let's talk about the elephant in the room, obviously, because one of the most known games on Smaky are the ones made by Daniel Roux. And Daniel Roux is the father of this little character that you could see a lot through my slides, because he was here mostly since the beginning of the story of Smaky. He is the visual identity, actually, because we can see him on the interface of Smaky. So he was really there since the beginning. And at some point, Daniel Roux made some games with him, and it was like educational games. And here we have the first one he made. It was to learn the letter. Kids, so you have to press a letter, and Blupi would make an action related to that letter. And he create games still now, so you can still play Daniel Roux's game for not too fast. I wanted to talk about just this one. Thank you. So yeah, I just wanted to talk about recently made a game, so you can download it on your phone, and it's not as that educative like we can have with that first game and the one later. It's still a type of puzzle game, so we have something to reflect about. So in the history of Daniel Roux, we always have the background of we are doing something we are playing games to think, to have reflection. And here I will show you, let's go, another example of this type of games that he made. Yes. It's really loud. So here you press K and you do something. And it was doing kangaroo. So you can see it's pretty simple, but it was something made for little kids to learn the letter. the more we advance in games with Daniel Roux, the more complex they begin to be. Oh, yeah, next one. And here we have a later example of what he made, and it was a puzzle game, Blupi Mania, that is downloadable because we have the chance to have someone that make a portage on recent platforms. Or so if you want to play these, it's totally possible. See that. So the first one was pretty easy. But yeah, through the level, it's more complicated, and I think it's pretty fun for that time. And you can see that he was using 3D isometric, so it was pretty skilled.
René Sommer est l'un des concurrents de...
Yeah. So, okay, so for that time, why I'm talking about games on Smaky? For me, it's really important because it shows how complex are these kind of practices. It's not all about having fun and doing something because we liked it. It's also about learning and other stuff like that. And I think it's pretty. It's kind of the same with computing. When we think about the history of computing, it's not all about utilitarian things. We don't just want to solve problems. We also have fun to tinker things and to create. And yeah, I think video games are a good representation of how at that time we think this practice. And here I just show you the number of games we found on Smaky. There was 70, something like that. So we also, in our research, try to find games, and I will let Yanick take the rest of it. But yeah, the idea for us is also to find the trace of all these games, to have a big picture of what we do. But as you can see, if you can read a bit the title that are on the left, it's mostly, like I said, board games, copy of games of arcade, and also educational games.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Sophie. What she doesn't say is that even if we knew some of these games, most of them are part of her work by reading all the material we have for decades, and also launching with emulators, launching old systems, old floppy disks, etc., and then compiling everything so that we can showcase to everybody what games were made and what kind of games were made. So this is tremendous work. It's only one part of a PhD thesis, but it's great to see this list getting longer and longer. And probably that you will recognize the Bond game or the Jeu de Flipper game if you've been using Smaky, especially a Smaky 6 here. So yeah, this is... We've shown that many games were produced on this platform, and that's just the tip of the iceberg, because many of them were on Commodore 64, Amiga, Atari ST, etc. in the rest of the 20th century. But there is always this common part to most of these games, which is that people were sometimes not making a career as a game designer. They were experimenting. They wanted to learn C++, BASIC, or sometimes assembly, like in the case of many of these games. So games were an excuse to learn, to program, but also to showcase what the machine could do, or to teach, or in fact to pass the flame to the next generation and make them want to program by playing, by interacting with the machine. So this is one of the results of our project. It's mostly Welsh, because many other things were happening in Zurich, in Bern, in other parts of Switzerland, including Ticino. So we are reaching the conclusion of the talk. So people were learning to program by creating games, and this has always existed. We saw that it was even happening in the 19th century in different conditions, but still games, the history of games, especially interactive games like electronic video games, is interlaced with the history of computing. It's also been using to demonstrate the use of a computer, and this is our way to recognize and to highlight this history of Swiss video games in particular. And I think we have something like 300 or 400 games identified, and the list is growing. If you are interested in the results of the project, we have a dedicated website. If you look for the names Confederação Ludens, you will see some more scholar articles about this game or this platform. But we also have a website where we compile all the video games. We are close to 1,000 games, but in fact we have a waiting list of hundreds and hundreds of games. So we will soon reach, I mean, we could have like 1,500 games, and one day we will reach the 2,000 games, because this includes also the games that are released nowadays. And the Swiss game industry is really prolific and well recognized. So we would like to thank the Swiss National Science Foundation, who's been funding this project, the IEEE Life Membership Association, who's invited us. And we benefited a lot from the Old Computers and Consoles Club. They have a stand just right there. You can manipulate, as Sophie said, many Smaky machines, including the Dauphin, which is a really rare occasion to see one nowadays. So thank you very much. Oh, and feel free to reach us if you have questions after this talk, or if you have information, things you think we don't know about, especially about games and computers on the French-speaking part of Switzerland.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Do you have questions or comments from the audience?
Okay, so
just a second. I pass you the microphone.
okay, so a question I have is, we now looked at like the older history of games in Switzerland, how they came to be, but how's it looking like in the modern day? Like, what are they like? Because just about, how should I formulate this? I'm really curious, because nowadays just about anybody can make a game and release it and sell it. There should theoretically be an even larger market now. So how is it looking like today?
Okay, so nowadays we have a few big players like Urban or Giants, who are making Transport Fever and Farming Simulator. So these are big highlights. But we also have the Zürcher Hochschule der Kunst. They have many alumni who are now active in the game industry, and many of these games, so there are like tens and tens of games based on these people which are released every year, and they get prizes. But the same is happening also in other parts of Switzerland, including the French-speaking part of Switzerland. So we have huge games, we have big games which are commercially successful and people can live, in fact, from this activity. But we also have the hobbyist scene. So either people who are making it like for free, or not willing to have people pay for their game because they are doing that on the side. But we also have a lot of people who are doing like game jams or just creating games for fun. So you can see that in the end, that's hundreds of games, or even more, which are created every year. So in the context of this project, we have to sort a bit. We try to take everything into account, but we don't have the resource to just compile everything, like every game jam game. It's a bit different in the 20th century, because any effort, like a teacher creating a game which will be played by 15 pupils, this is very interesting for us, because it allows us to tell the story of how people were using the computers, especially in relation with games. So you see, depending on which part of history you look at, you will work differently and identify other games. But in the end, yes, there are tons of them, and yeah, the more time passes and the more games are produced every year. Thank you for the question.
Another question, anyone? No?
Yes, thank you. Perhaps a comment. Do you know how Daniel Roux was doing the games and how the difficulties of the game have been done and why?
To keep programming them with assembly, I guess, but I'm not sure it's the answer you wanted.
You are looking for Toto at the beginning, that became a Blupi, and they are very, very easy to learn the alphabet. And then the last one is more complex, and it was one to learn to program, etc. Mm-hmm. Do you know why there is this evolution?
I'm here. I will hear you, I think, on that, because I don't want to answer something for Daniel Roux on that, because I have a discussion with him, and he's not the kind of having this kind of thoughts, you know, about his own work. So
it was simply the kids that he has.
Yeah, obviously.
And he made the play for their kids.
Yeah, that's true. That's something that I tend to not to look at, because I think it can be an explanation from now, you know, when you think about it today. So I'm not sure at that time it was that well thought. So I didn't think about that. But yeah, he explained that it was because the kids were growing, and he didn't have any play tester. He was just making his own kids play. So obviously. But I was more thinking about the technical parts of it. Thank you for your comments.
Any other question or comment? May I just ask you, this project, Swiss National Science Foundation, are you in the middle of it, or is it close to the end, or where do you stand?
We're in the second half. We shouldn't mention the end of it, because she will have to write her thesis. So it would put too much pressure. But we're in the second half.
It's okay.
We're in the second half, and everything is going great. So you can already see some results. This is one of the results, but some of them are available on the website, and there will be articles and doctoral thesis coming in the 2 or 3 years.
And you talk about papers and so on. Do you communicate also internationally with other communities or other countries and so on?
Yeah, so we are part of a larger network, because people get aware of studying the history of games, and obviously history of computing was in advance, but history, and especially regional history of video games, this is something which started like 10 to 15 years ago, and now it's growing in every country. All the main museums usually make exhibitions, so they made exhibitions about video games, but now they're making exhibitions about local video games. So yeah, we are part of a network of scholars, and here in particular at the beginning, you could see Sophie presenting her work in Malta this summer, but she was also in Krakow at the History of Games conference. So people come and talk about the games from their countries. Because one of the main points is that for decades, we've been documenting and telling the story or the history of the big video games. In fact, it was a US-centric history with a bit of Japan. So you had Nintendo, Atari, stuff like that. And people were totally omitting the games that were created locally. But if you look at this history of video games, it's not what people went through in Switzerland. Here, people were using microcomputers, or even local microcomputers that nobody knows of outside of Switzerland. And we need somebody to write the story. So it has to come from Switzerland, or it has to come from every country, and it has to happen now. What the reviewers from the Swiss National Foundation told us was that our project was great because people are getting very old.
Yes.
Yeah, and we still can get in touch with them.
Okay. Thank you. if there's no more question, you can always discuss with them after. Anyway, thank you very much.
Thank
for
you.
your presentation.
Thank you.
So next presentation in 15 minutes.